favorite shell guns, which are the main grade guns that are on our gun deck below. When the ship was built, they gave us those guns because they were the most powerful artillery that could be given to a ship at the time. They're honestly almost a little bit too big for this class of ship. With that being the case, we would pretty much only fire them one by one in a wave from one end of the gun deck to the other, shooting their 8-inch shells, which is a big iron ball filled with about 50 pounds of gunpowder. We would aim these guns towards the waterline, getting some rotational spin on those shells as they're shooting towards the enemy hull, and skip them up and into the enemy hull, blowing large chunks about 5 foot in diameter out of the waterline of the enemy's ship. Now those are our primary batteries, but then into our Civil War service, they gave us these, our Parrott rifles. Now this is a 20-pound Parrott rifle, named after the creator, last name Parrott. These guns, like the name describes, are rifled, meaning that they have lands and grooves in the barrel that allow to impart some spin onto the projectile that fires out of them, giving them greater accuracy over greater distance. Now on land, these guns could go up to about 3 miles, but on a boat that range is about cut in half, so say about a mile and a half. That being the case, we could pretty much shoot a bolt from this gun through the D in that domino sugar sign about 90-95% of the time. It's about a mile and a half away over there. Yeah, we would get one of these, or 2 of these, mounted on a brass rail carriage that would allow them to rotate and pivot on the stern, and then 2 30-pound Parrott rifles on our bow as well. These guns would be better to pinpoint parts on the mast and rigging if you wanted to take down a yard and slow down an enemy ship, rather than destroying the whole ship or sinking the ship outright.
Okay, so typical crew size for this gun would have been 5 to 6 men and 1 young boy. The numbers to man our shell guns, those numbers are 14 men and 1 boy. The youngest members of our ship's crew were our ship's boys, more commonly referred to as our powder monkeys. Reason being is that if you've been down below on the gun deck, you notice the overheads or ceilings are very low. Well, during battle, that space is smoky, it's loud, it's confusing. So these boys were nimble enough to maneuver through all the confusion to bring up the charge of powder to keep the guns firing, because if a gun's not firing in battle, that's life or death for the ship and for its crew. And a good gun crew could fire 1 round every single minute. So in order to fire this gun, the first thing they would do would be to take their first implement. This is our worm. It's just a simple brass corkscrew. Some of you probably saw me using it earlier. And what I'm doing, I'm trying to clean out the barrel of this gun from any debris that might be inside. About 5 years ago, one of our co-workers almost fired a toy car from this very gun. And we were faced the opposite way towards where Turnogg's Irish Pub used to be. If we had fired that toy car, it would have shattered all those glass windows you see back there. And just by inserting it, it's going to just clean out everything, just making sure, because it's always important to make sure that the gun is clean before loading. So, the next step, getting ready to fire this gun, actually the most important step, we're going to take this is our sponge. It looks like a giant Q-tip. And just like the worm, we're going to insert it down the barrel, finishing the cleaning process. Now, after this gun would be fired, the remains of the powder charge is still burning back here in the breech of the gun. Well, if you were to put a fresh black powder on top of burning embers, what do you think is going to happen? The gun's going to prematurely explode. And if it explodes, it can also explode the ammunition. That's going to destroy the gun, damage the ship, and kill the gun crew. And the enemy's already trying to do all 3 of those things. So that's why they would sponge to extinguish those embers, so it was safe to load the gun. And just show me place more. Down the barrel, give it a couple spins. Now the gun is loaded and ready for firing. I can hold on. Grab the charge. So this is our powder charge. This is 4.5 ounces of tightly compact black powder. Now back in the day, the powder bag was made of wool, linen, or flannel. Some material back in the day that was cheap. They're a lot more expensive now. So we use tinfoil because this is exactly that. Cheap and relatively affordable. Now, the full charge for this gun is supposed to be 2 pounds. So that would be about the size of a burrito from Cadoba's or Chipotle if you ever get one. The guns on the gun deck fire a 9-pound charge of gunpowder, so that's about a very large bag of flour, maybe a little bit more. But the last time this gun fired its full amount of powder, shoot the window of the Hyatt Regency right over there. And they asked us politely not to do that again. But on holidays like New Year's Eve, 4th of July, when we have a fire, when we're in the evening, when we fire the gun for when they have before the fireworks, because on New Year's Eve we kick off the fireworks, we'll fire a little bit more, anywhere from half a pound to a pound. Or if we have a very special ceremony aboard the ship, like earlier this year when the Secretary of Navy and the Assistant Secretary of Defense were aboard the ship, I got to fire 9 ounces out of this gun. And the gun actually recoiled back about a few inches, and the entire deck actually shook. So it gives some idea of what actually a full charge would do. If I had fired a full charge, this gun would go back about 3 to 5 feet until it stopped. But today only firing 4.5 ounces. And then probably don't need to explain this whole reason we fired this much to stay on good terms with Baltimore Police, Coast Guard, any officials in the city, because we're here in downtown Baltimore. Now, if we did load a projectile into this gun, it would go straight through the side of the Science Center and then go through that church steeple over in Federal Hill. But my coworker Nate and I love what we do here on the ship, so no projectile, but you do get a very, very nice boom. And then using my rammer, which is at the end of my sponge, we're going to charge the round into the back or the breech of the gun.
Right there, I'm placing our priming pick in the vent to make sure our charge is properly seated. It stands up like this, and our priming pick is made actually out of brass so that we don't cause any stray sparks against the iron to ignite our powder charge.
Yep, because iron on iron causes sparks, brass on iron does not. If I was firing a full charge, I wouldn't even have to worry about that because I know I'd be hitting that charge. Now, we could put a hole inside that charge, which we're going to need to do in order to put our friction primer to fire the gun. Problem is, if we fire the gun in its current state, sets that railing on fire. So we have to run this gun through the gun port. This is the audience participation part of the program. If you'd like to help run out a 19th century piece of naval artillery, please step up to the lines on either side of the gun, and we'll be able to run out this piece of artillery. So we need some people over here on this side, some people over here on that side. You'll be on the outboard side of the line. So the line that is on the deck right there. And you can step up to where the block is over there. So the couple of commands, you want to make sure your feet are firmly planted on the deck. Because I'm going to give 2 commands, action and haul. On the command action, that's when you take all the slack out of the line. And then on the command haul, you're only going to pull once, keeping your feet flat, only moving your upper body. And I repeat these commands. So, action, you can pick up your line.
Take all the slack out of it.
Yep, you're going to pull all the slack out of the line, make it nice and taut. So, action, haul. Action, haul. The idea is not to step back, just keep your feet planted. Action, haul. Action, haul. Action, haul. All right, that as well, you can drop your lines. So, thank you to my gun crew. So, take my priming pick again, I'm going to send it down this hole called the vent, and I'm going to puncture a hole inside of that powder charge.
Next we're going to use this.
Just going to hit it. So, while I put on my hearing protection, Nate here is going to actually show you what's actually firing the gun, or show you our friction primer.
Yeah, this is our friction primer. It's a brass tube with gunpowder in it, and at the top here, where this wire connects to it, is a substance called carbonate of mercury. When I pull this wire out of that tube, or when Dimitri pulls the wire out of the tube, it's going to ignite that gunpowder, and it's going to spark all the way down into the vent, igniting our powder charge and giving us a nice boom. Once this goes into the vent, we have to ask you guys to step below the awning back here because this will shoot up about 50 feet in the air and it will come down quite hot like a bee sting if it hits you. Yeah, so at this good, do not be alert! Attention on the pier! Constellation's going to be firing at a gun, do not be alarmed!
Okay, so last couple of commands. I'm going to the command make ready. And when I give that command, feel free to use the palm of your hands to cover your ears. Then, when I pull my landing guard here, that's when we'll get the boom.